Hello, this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network every Thursday at 1 p.m. I'm your host, Danilo Cuellar, and today we have Cody Drummond, founder of Peacekeeper, a revolutionary app that's in direct competition with the inefficiencies of 911 and the monopoly on violence known as the police. So, Cody, tell us a little bit about your app.
Yeah, so the Peacekeeper app is a decentralized network of emergency responders. It allows you to establish emergency response networks with your friends, family, and neighbors for the purpose of immediate emergency response. It's made for your household. So anytime a medical, fire, intruder, or abduction emergency goes down, you can hit one of those buttons on the main screen of the app, and it'll immediately send that out to all your neighbors and prompt them to respond quickly.
Cool. So it's so what kind of message do they get on their phone? What pops up?
So the messaging is done through the app and push notifications. What you will see when you get an alert is you will see a screen, and you can see more at peacekeeper.org. But the screen you'll see has the symbol of the fire emergency. Let's say it's a fire. It's going to show you the flames and stuff, the visuals. It'll show the picture of the person sending out the alert. It'll show their address. It'll show anyone else who's responding to the alert.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it'll give you an option to chat back and forward and send further details like, hey, I'm trapped upstairs, or hey, everyone's out of the house and everyone's safe.
Yeah. Wow. So when did you start with this app? When did it come about?
Now, I started working on the project about 3 years ago, and the app is just kind of hitting the market and coming to fruition here. We just released it for sale about 2 weeks ago, now that we're pretty confident in the stability of the system. It's 99 cents now on the Google Play and Apple Store.
And I also heard that it's popular internationally, right?
Right. During the testing phases when everything wasn't so stable, we managed to get users in all 50 states and about 20 countries.
Wow, 20 countries.
The network's
Nice.
not nearly as big as we'd like it to be. We want to grow it much, much bigger, and we think we're going to. But we got to put a little more time into it to make that happen.
So do you have like a Facebook group for people who have questions or anything like that? Or?
Absolutely, and the best way to find the Facebook group is to just go to peacekeeper.org.
Uh-huh.
That's our main website, and there's a Facebook link you can click there on the home page, and that'll take you right to our Facebook page.
Nice. So you have yet to translate it, right? To various languages?
Yes, but we've had multiple people offer to help with translations, and that will be coming. Probably Japanese and Spanish will definitely be a future option, and more.
So explain to me how this is superior to 911, conventional 911 and emergency response.
Well, the goal of Peacekeeper is to be superior to public response systems, and I don't think it's very difficult to accomplish that goal. Right now, I will say that in some situations it can be superior because in most of the time when a person calls 911, the police don't show up till about 10 minutes. Sometimes it's a lot longer than that.
Wow.
Now, if this is someone that's attacking you in your home or a threat to you, that's too long. They're not going to show up in time.
Oh, yeah.
Whether the police are nice people or not, or want to help or not, is irrelevant. They don't have the manpower and capability to help people in most of these emergencies. They show up after the crimes happen. Your neighbors are right next door, and they know you. They know your face. A lot of times they know the layout of your home. They know your children. They know your dog. So your neighbors can respond immediately with the right incentives and the right perspective. Now, we do encourage people to get training when they get on these networks, especially if they plan on going into someone's home with a weapon eventually. Training is very important.
When you say training, what do you mean exactly?
Well, depending on what you're doing, if you think that you're going to be responding to a medical emergency, it makes sense to get maybe some CPR training and some basic medical training on how to assess a person and how to help a person out in a variety of different emergencies. If you think that you're going to be going into someone's home when an intruder breaks in, you better get trained in self-defense and how to handle that.
Yeah. Wow. I took a few years of karate when I was young. I don't know if that applies.
Probably not. The idea with Peacekeepers looking to partner with trainers that are really going to be able to put the people in the right mindset and train them in the situations that they will actually encounter. Mm-hmm. So our hope is to have a scenario where people can be trained on how to defend your home with a firearm, or how to go into a neighbor's home with a firearm without shooting your neighbor and without shooting your neighbor's dog. Because the public emergency responders seem to have a problem doing that. And a lot of that is because they don't know you. They don't know what you look like. They don't know your face. They're strangers.
Exactly. I mean, they'll show up in time so you can fill out paperwork, right? They're good for that. That's why I hear a lot of people say that we already live in a state of anarchy because police always show up after the fact. Right? Right? Like, what good is it? What good is it if they're like, such a delay or lag between the time you called and the time they get there, right?
It's very, very rare that a police officer will show up to stop a bodily threat to you or stop someone intruding into your home. Mm-hmm. That's just extremely rare. And police will admit that, It just doesn't happen.
I guess that'd be just another nail in the coffin for the the necessity of the state, in that some people say, well, we need the police to protect us from bad people, but they're never there, so how are they?
Right. To me a greater incentive is having everyone be a protector from bad people, because if you have a system that works, less people are going to think about harming you or committing a crime. When you have a system that doesn't work and doesn't catch the criminals and doesn't show up in time, that incentivizes crime.
Yeah, like I remember Larkin Rose often says, when people ask him, in a stateless society, who would protect the people, against murderers and rapists and thieves, he's like, well, what about you? Why don't you protect your neighbor? Would you be willing to intervene if you saw somebody being assaulted or something, or would you just stand by and watch it? Right?
Right. And the problem is, that the people have been so domesticated that they don't practice these things, they don't train these things, they don't take on these responsibilities. The truth is that there's no difference between the police officer and anyone else. There's a reason why police officers, when something's happening, they respond and they address it. Even off-duty police, if they see a confrontation get involved, it's because one, they've decided that it's their job, and two, they've got training for it and got used to doing it. So we're encouraging peacekeepers to do the same thing. Take on some responsibility and get some training. And once you're prepared, you'll be confident to do these things. Right now, people have a lot of fear because they've never done it. People fear the unknown.
Yeah.
All it takes is a little training and a little bit of community building, and we can do it better.
Yeah. I was just watching this comedian. I don't know if you heard of Michael Connell. He's an Australian comedian, and I saw his video recently. He talked about the bystander effect, which is like when let's say somebody's having a heart attack, or I don't know. I guess let's say even somebody's getting assaulted by police. Let's say right in public, and you have so many people on the outside just watching, doing nothing. Right? Like somebody's having a heart attack. It's like everybody's just nobody's doing anything. So the bystander effect is nobody's doing anything, so I'm not going to do anything. So everybody's thinking that.
The bystander effect is a real scientific effect. It's real. It's there, which is why when we built Peacekeeper, when we built the featuring for the emergency response group, we capped it at 12 members. Because the idea was that the more tight-knit your group is, the more you're going to actually respond when an emergency does happen. Yeah. And they're less likely pass the buck off to someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more likely they're going to be to train together and to have these meetings together and get to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, like, let's say, for example, this Ebola thing recently, like, people are, saying it's a crisis over there all the way in, in this African country, we should send aid, we should send money. And then I'm like, well, why don't you just help your neighbor? I think your neighbor, like, if your neighbor is sick, why don't you just help your neighbor? Send money to your neighbor. Why are you going to send money overseas, where you don't know where it's going, you don't know the people there? People have, like, I guess, an aversion to helping those in their immediate vicinity.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's because it's not really their decision anyways. So they find a way to justify it. People don't want to recognize the fact that their money is being taken from them. Mm-hmm. If the money wasn't taken, maybe people would have that mindset. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We don't give anything to anybody. The money's taken from us and given to someone.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm talking about some people who actually want to send money to, let's say
right.
Liberia.
Oh, okay. To right.
Yeah. No, people voluntarily. So
right. That always blows me away. Is that people are sending money over the heads of thousands of people that really, really need it right next door to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I see where you're going there.
Exactly. I mean, one of the problems with having an enormous, bureaucratic leviathan is that there's no accountability. There's no efficiency. It's just one enormous, inefficient beast. And and so basically, the anarchist or voluntarist philosophy is to just break it up into smaller pieces. Secession, basically, right? And that's how there's strength in smaller communities, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, that has a lot to do with why we built Peacekeeper. One of Peacekeeper's objectives, there's three. There's protection, independence, and benevolence. And that's why we have small micro groups working. That's why we want to train and equip people to take care of themselves, because we want people to be self-reliant and interdependent on the people they know and trust, not on strangers.
Yeah. So like with you have like a few people in your family, like, or your close friends that are in your network.
Yeah, I just moved from San Jose to Rancho Cordova. I live in California. Mm-hmm. And so in San Jose, I had a decent amount of people in my network. It's been a challenge in Rancho Cordova over the past week or 2 weeks, kind of looking for neighbors, because we encourage people not to add strangers to their neighbors, but we encourage them to get to know their neighbors and scout for the people that they think might be a good fit in their emergency response group. So that's kind of the process I'm in right now, is trying to feel people out and see, okay, would this guy be a good fit? Do I want this guy showing up if an emergency happens, or vice versa?
Yeah.
So it is a process. We caution people to hook up with strangers, because there's a good chance that they won't show up at all, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
When it's with strangers, you just don't know, and it's better to know. So
you're saying first would be close friends or family, and
right.
then would be neighbors.
I think that makes the most sense, absolutely, because your close friends and family, they trust you, they know you, and they'll get on the system with you pretty easily.
Yeah.
Your neighbors, a lot of people know their neighbors, some people don't. So it really depends on the person. And if you know your neighbors and you're friends with them, I mean, it's a no-brainer to be on the system. And even for minor things, like if your kid falls and breaks his leg and needs a ride to the hospital, you send out that medical alert, your neighbors show up and they help you. You have a support community there. Mm-hmm. You're not on your own.
Yeah, that reminds me of, have you heard of Doug Stanhope, the comedian?
No.
He's like a libertarian. He's one of the most libertarian comedians out there, I think, right now. And he did one thing about immigration. Basically, people saying, we should close the borders, keep these people out. They're taking our jobs. They're, destroying the infrastructure, And he's like, why do you care about these people? They don't even speak the language. Sometimes they don't even have shoes. They barely have any clothes when they cross the border. Why are you afraid of these people? He's like,
well, if they're taking your jobs, then
exactly.
I mean, that's your problem. If you can't compete with people that can't even speak the language and can't read and write and aren't very educated, then
What kind of job?
what does that say about you?
Yeah, basically what he was saying was like, okay, he doesn't know the language, but you know who knows the language? Your neighbor. How good do you know your neighbor? He's like, you live 8 years next to your neighbor, and if you happen to check the mail at the same time, you avert eye contact.
Yeah, yes, that is so true. And I know it's not like that everywhere in the U.S., but I know it is like that in a lot of places. Too many places.
Yeah, at my parents' house, right? I'm here with my family, and because we're temporarily living here, and so my parents been living here since '95, right? And we recently moved in a few months ago, and so we have been like walking around the neighborhood, me and my wife and the kids, and we just meet the neighbors and we talk to them and everything, and then I tell my mother, we just met the neighbors. She's like, oh, I never met them. I never talked to them. You met all these neighbors.
That's great.
And my wife, she's like, we should take walks more often, I think.
Right. And that kind of goes back to another thing we hope to do with Peacekeepers. So we're so used to technology pulling us away from our communities.
Yeah.
And we spend time on Facebook. I'm guilty too. I do it. We spend time watching TV instead of being out there with our community. So I was really hoping Peacekeeper could be a technology that pulls people back into their community.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I realized with me that really is helping me to connect more with the community now is because we're going to homeschool, right?
We are too.
Naturally, of course. Only the sane people homeschool.
Right.
So that in itself gets you out into the community more often. Like I'm taking my kids everywhere: parks, playgrounds, libraries, farmers markets. And meeting people all over the place, and
well done.
And so people tell me like, well, what about socialization? How are they going to know how to talk to people?
I was homeschooled, and so were my 7 brothers and sisters, and we don't have any problems. So.
Oh, were you? Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
So was that religious type homeschooling or?
My mom wasn't a libertarian or anything like that, but she was pretty clever early on, and she knew after experiencing the school system a little bit, she knew what a joke it was and what a scam it was. So she pulled her kids out of school.
Very nice. So
yeah.
So since the beginning, like you didn't attend any public school at all?
Right. I never got into the first grade.
Nice. Wow. So how are you even functioning now? I mean, you don't even have a diploma.
Right, no high school diploma. I'm I'm mostly self-educated for the most part.
That's what education is.
Right.
If you're not interested in what you're doing, that's not, I don't think you can call it education, right? That's forced memorization. That's regurgitation, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of truth you're speaking, but yeah.
It's true, it's like I talk to people, a lot of mothers that I meet at these various places, and I talk about homeschooling as much as possible because it can't be overstated enough. So many people just habitually, I guess, just believe that the current state of education is the best thing that we can possibly do for our kids, and yeah, I'm always questioning. I'm always explaining different points of view.
And one of my big concerns is how the school system pulls children away from their mothers. And when the child should be spending time with their mothers and fathers and their family, they're spending all this time with a lot of times people that they shouldn't be spending time with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's. I think Stefan Manu was discussing that how just putting your kids in daycare and then kindergarten is the changes that occurs in the brain is equivalent to abandonment or neglect, right? That the child just it's just physiological changes that occurs, and then they're forced to cope with the fact that their parents aren't there anymore.
Yeah, I don't know all the science behind it, but it makes sense to me. It really does. Humans are meant to be with human children are meant to be with their parents.
So that's so revolutionary. What kind of thinking is that?
They're meant to be hugged every day, kissed every day, nursed, and taken care of.
Oh yeah. I mean, my wife does the extended breastfeeding. She breastfeeds as often as possible for as long as and they love it. And that's not as socially acceptable either. But she's lucky she has a job. She can stay at home and do that. Much longer than she would normally if she had to go back to work. To a place, right?
Right.
So, but I have been learning a lot about public education or government schools, better said. And, and you just can't talk about it enough because it's just so ingrained in people that's the way it is. You don't question it. Just send your kids there. Where our money is paying for it anyway. Might as well use it.
Right, and I think it's easy. For a lot of parents, it's easier to do that. That's the easier thing to do. It gives the mothers a break. They don't have to worry about it. They have free time. Which is, I think, why a lot of people do it.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's more like a babysitter, right?
Right.
And I mean, I guess it's now people rely on it now more probably since as the currency is getting more and more devalued. So one person can't necessarily support a household, right? So now you need two people, and so it's getting even more difficult to homeschool if a person wants to.
Right.
So you got to make your own judgment call as to if you're going to homeschool, you have to be home with your kid, and the other person has to work, but you got to live in a place that you can afford, things like that. So it's
right. There are a lot of factors that come into play. A lot of people, there's probably a lot of people that can't do it. If the wife has to go out and work to pay the bills, sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah. So how does your family react to all of your beliefs and your the voluntarism and anarchist?
I've converted most of my family. I've got 7 brothers and sisters and my parents, and for the most part, when you speak truth to people and you do it right, people recognize truth. They recognize reason, and a lot of times people just aren't presented with these ideas and these beliefs because they're so used to being in public school or watching mainstream media. Mm-hmm. Once people get a taste of truth, I think people get a taste of truth and they start to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Unless they're extremely set in their ways. If it's the kind of person that just wants to be right, mm-hmm. Instead of, find truth, then there's not much you can do.
So you haven't encountered much resistance at all from your family then?
No, not really.
That's wonderful.
Not really. I'm not going to say my family's like full-on voluntarists.
Yeah.
But at this point, most of my family's against the drug war. Most of my family really likes like Ron Paul, and low taxes, pro-freedom, pretty skeptical of the wars at this point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, my family, I grew up in a hardcore Democratic family, and last time I voted was 2008. Voted for Obama, but not because I have any passion for Obama, but because my family's Democrat. So who are you gonna vote for? Obama,
right.
Democrat. But then I started reading, educating myself, and so now I'm a much different mindset. And interestingly enough, now my mother, who is more political minded, she considers herself more of a socialist now, which is even worse, I guess you could say.
Right. I mean, and so many people, they don't understand the terms. They don't know exactly what it means. They don't know exactly what they're saying, because when people promote these ideas and beliefs, they're really promoting violence. Oh, yeah. A lot of times, if you can show them that, they'll start to think about it a little more. Mm-hmm. But people don't want to see the smoking gun in the room.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The gun in the room. That's what you have to expose. That's.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen. I posted a video of Mark Stevens. Have you heard of this guy, Mark Stevens?
Yes, I have heard of Mark Stevens.
He does a lot of work in courts, but battling head on with the judges and lawyers, and basically he uses logical fallacies to just pull the rug out from under their sophist arguments, and he has a lot of success with just throwing out a lot of victimless crime charges.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing. The guy wrote 2 books, and so I interviewed him. I was very lucky to have been able to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, very lucky to be able to interview him. Fascinating guy. A lot of stories, a lot of great stories to share, and so yeah, so that's another way, is using the logical fallacies, in just showing the inconsistencies in the statist argument. You have to universalize a principle for it to be valid, right? So if I can't steal from my neighbor to fund my child's education, how is it okay if I can vote for a politician to do that through property taxes, right?
Right. I mean, and I think what you'll find with most statists is they haven't really thought about the fundamentals. They focus on issues and people that they disagree with. They don't focus on philosophy or the foundation of their beliefs. Mm-hmm. And most statists, my biggest problem is that most statists don't have any red lines. They don't have points where they say, okay, this is as far as I would go. Mm-hmm. And that's scary because, if you're not willing to say, hey, I'm willing to stop at this point, you're no different than a Nazi society, or a communist Russian society. There's no difference. And I don't think humans are all that different. We're all humans, humans.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, like that map right behind you, it's a little bit how do you say, inaccurate. in that there's different names for all those geographical regions, right? If you just call it people live there, people live there, people live there, right? But when you say, Africans live here, French people live here, Russian people live here, then you can group people in together. Yeah,
put labels on them.
Yeah, put labels. People think they're really different. They're Muslims. Those people are dangerous.
Right.
Rather than thinking they're just people, and we have more in common with the Muslims in Iraq or Iran than we do with our own political masters.
I agree with that.
So we have to break down this double standard hypocrisy that we have erected for government, that the law of morality applies to all of us, except if you call yourself government.
Yeah, no, you have to apply the laws equally. And I always say that, when I'm arguing with people about what police should and shouldn't be able to do, I just ask people, hey, if you did that thing, would your actions be justified? And if they say no, well then, nor is it justified if a police officer does it.
Oh yeah.
So if you're stopping someone from hurting someone else, not only can a police officer do that, so can you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to kick some guy's door down and haul him off to jail because he was smoking a plant,
yeah.
If it's not right for you, it's not right for the cops.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it reminds me of that recent video that I saw. I don't know if you saw it. This guy was like there was a police officer there with a gun drawn, right? And this guy's friend who was filming, he's already down on the floor with his hands behind his head, scared. And then the guy filming, he's standing. He's like, I'm not going to get on the floor. I'm scared, but I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to get on the floor. And the police officer's like, go on the floor. I'm like, I didn't do anything. Why you? He's like, and the police officer's like, I got to figure this out. Get on the floor. So basically, he didn't understand anything what was going on, but they have to assert their domination, right?
Right.
They have to control the situation.
That's interesting to hear from a police officer say, I have to figure this out, because it sounds like he's really thinking about it, which a lot of times you won't get that kind of openness. You'll get people just saying, pulling out their taser and just going to the hardcore.
Yeah, and then eventually another cop car came, another police officer came, drew his gun. So this guy had two guns on him, and
Oh, wow.
and finally the guy he starts crying. He's his camera's still rolling. He's crying. He's like you guys are cowards. You're just men. You without those badges, without those guns, you're just men pointing guns at me. You're cowards. Be a man. Put down the gun.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that video.
Yeah, I can see if I don't know if I can find it, but it was a really good one. In that the guy was it was amazing how much truth he was speaking. In that he was so, nervous and stressed and all. Oh my God.
And I try, with all the indifferences I have a lot with police, I try and look at police as just our brothers and sisters that are misguided. And I know that at one point I was a pretty ridiculous conservative, and I supported the police state. So I believed those things. I almost signed up for the military.
Wow.
So because I know that I was there once, I try and empathize with them, and I try and just keep the door open to trying to make connections and trying to convert people and trying to change people's minds.
Yeah, police it's difficult, because they're in such a position of power, It's basically they have a license to kill, and they have no accountability, no responsibility, they do whatever to people, theft, assault, rape, murder, and what do they get? Administrative leave, paid vacations, What's the accountability, right? So how do you deal with that?
Right.
How do you talk to somebody like that who can just assert their domination over you,
right.
at a whim?
Yeah, I don't know if you know about like Ian Freeman and the Free State Project and what they're doing. I think he's very good at talking to politicians and judges and other police officers. He's a really good example on how to reach out to people with kind of a peaceful attitude, reach out in love, and get people to really think about what they're doing. It's a good model, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right here where I now live, we live, I think, 2 houses down from a police officer. So it's a little bit nervous, when I drive past his house, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, And I wonder, if I were to go to his house, and I were to take this app, and explain it to him, would he be open to it, or would he feel threatened by it, or, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, especially if you've had a bad experience with police. It's very hard, but it's really a decision. If you make up your mind to reach out to those people and care about those people, you're going to have a better chance of changing the world for a positive and changing those people's minds.
Have you had good conversations with police officers?
I definitely have, yes.
Wow.
I've had, there were times where I considered being a jerk to a police officer, but I was actually nice and I felt like it was a very influential conversation. There have been times where I just kind of gave the police the same attitude they gave me, and it didn't go anywhere.
So were those conversations online or in person?
In person.
Okay. Was that like when they stopped you, like for speeding or something? Oh, really? And what did you say?
I talked about philosophy. Hey, man, why are you writing me a ticket? Like, I have a family at home. I can't pay this. I can't afford it, and try to get the person to think about how his actions were actually affecting people. So it didn't save me from getting the ticket. A couple times I have had police officers not write me tickets, but I feel like if enough people said that when they got pulled over, hey, you're hurting me, you're hurting my family, I have children you're hurting, it might start to change a lot of people's minds that are doing the oppressing.
You should definitely check out my interview with Mark Stevens. Because that's exactly what he defends. People like that, speeding, moving violations, parking violations, right? Drug possession, things like that. And basically, the first way that he presents his argument is prove to me, show me the evidence that the laws and the Constitution apply to my client just because he's physically in the state of California, Arizona, Texas, whichever state, right? Prove to me, right? What's the evidence? And they cannot answer that question. There is no evidence, right, that laws apply to people. Everything they say is a logical fallacy. It's fascinating, and appeal to antiquity, appeal to force, appeal to popular opinion, appeal to authority. It's just so many logical facts, and he just goes down the list. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, most people hearing what you just said will not be able to grasp that, because their mind is so entrenched in like the current system. They don't even grasp that. What do you mean laws don't apply to me? Of course they do. People, and ultimately people don't understand the fundamentals of what a law is and what a right is, and what is this and that.
So essentially, what a lot of people recommend doing is, just getting the ticket. Don't fight the guy. Just if he's gonna write you a ticket, let him write you a ticket. And then when you go to court, that's your opportunity to present all of these arguments, to the judge and to the lawyer, and that's what I'm really interested in learning more about doing, because so many people, when you get a ticket, you're like, this is so annoying. I got to pay a ticket. God damn, I don't want to fight it. I just want to get this over with, right? Nobody really contests it, right? Because it says you just think like, it's just a matter of course. You just pay the ticket. What else are you gonna do?
Right.
Right.
Right, and it's hard. Like in California, they make you forfeit bail before. So if you go to court, they're going to charge you an extra $200 to $300 right up front. So they'll say you need to pay this amount before we even let you have your day in court. It's a pretty corrupt system. Yeah.
Wow.
And then if you lose in court, which you're going to a lot of times, they're going to charge you extra for court fees.
Yeah.
And then you missed out on a day of work, a bunch of stress,
Exactly. So basically, if you claim if you put not guilty, right, then that happens, right?
Then you have to pay them before you can get your trial.
Before you can get your trial. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, some of the stories that he's told me, he's like, just, because some of the lawyers, there's this one lawyer who said, the proof that laws apply is all the people that are currently in jail. And he's like, are you serious? That's not an argument. That's just saying, that's the appeal to force. That's saying, because I can hurt you, that means laws apply. Because,
Right.
It's like, that's might makes right there.
Yeah.
Because,
that's about right.
because I can bomb your country, what we're doing is correct. So that's the way they function, right? So like what you just said, he exposes the gun in the room, right? And another interesting thing he did one time was he had a witness on the stand, right? And he said to the witness, "Did you come here out of your own free will?" Right? The witness says, "Of course I did." He's like, I'm sorry. Is this your name on the subpoena right here?" "Oh yeah, that's my name." Wait. I'm confused. You just told me you came here of your own free will, yet you were subpoenaed here, right, by law to attend. And so that's, again, pointing out the force, the gun, right? Yes. The violence of government. There is no choice, right? And and then he basically says, how can you trust this witness? This witness just perjured himself. He just lied. He just contradicted himself.
That's funny. Wow.
It's amazing.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, definitely check this man out. This guy is really awesome. I'm gonna interview him again probably, because his stories are just so awesome. They have to be told and retold and retold. He's just a great learner. Like, I don't know any other anarchist who's doing this kind of work. Like, he focuses in the courts. That's his field, And and by the way, he's not a lawyer at all. He's got no credentials as a lawyer.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? But he's been doing this for like 10 years, and incredible success. Of course, depending on how far along the case is. If they call him too late, then it's kind of difficult. But he's told me that he's got into conversations with this one guy who was a Supreme Court lawyer, right? He's like, this guy had an ego, Supreme Court lawyer. Like, like this guy is good at what he does, but again, same logical fallacies. You just have to know how to identify them. So yeah. So if you ever get a ticket again, please call this guy, and he'll give you some excellent advice. Or, I suggest you read his books or just watch that YouTube channel. Just check out his videos. He's got, success story after success story after success story.
I'll definitely take a look.
And then he's got this other thing, the call of shame, which is basically when he when people he talks to lawyers or IRS agents over the phone, and he basically trips them up of their own contradictions. It's just wonderful. So
who else is really good at that is Larkin Rose.
Oh yeah, excellent.
He's good at taking a simple concept and idea and presenting it in a way that most people can understand. And
yeah, have you read his book, The Most Dangerous Superstition?
No, I've just seen his Facebook stuff.
Oh yeah, no, he does a lot of great stuff there. But I read the book. And it's just it put a lot of things into perspective, helped me understand things much better, and so that I can explain it to people.
Right.
And because, like you said, we have to be able to explain these concepts simple and straightforward for laymen to understand, because that's how we reach people. It's one mind at a time, right? So and by the way, do it without offending them or putting them on the defensive. Because so many people, when you mention the word government, there's so much emotion that's wrapped up in that word, right?
Right.
So what's your when you talk to people, what's your strategy for explaining these concepts? How do you go about doing it?
Stay calm, ask questions, concede some points every once in a while.
Yeah.
Find common ground.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Really focus on the root of the problem. Not issues here and there that aren't fundamental.
Yeah. Immigration.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, with me, one thing I notice is, especially my family, because it's so democratic and socialistic, I guess, they tend to be very emotional. They get very emotional.
It's hard with family.
Oh
with
my
family,
God.
It's way harder because
it's very hard.
family like you're saying, they get emotional.
Woo! And but one thing is actually interesting is that is a logical fallacy in itself. Appeal to emotion. So so when somebody gets physically or viscerally angry at what you're saying, that's basically an admittance of a failed argument, or a lack of argument.
Right.
They have no recourse, right, to fall back on other than anger and insults and offensive remarks.
Right. To me, when people get angry, it tells me a couple things. Because I was there, I used to be that person, and it tells me that one, they're not extremely confident in their views. They're not really rooted in anything. They don't have a foundation. And it also tells me that a lot of times people take a critique of a belief or an idea or a system as a critique against themselves. They take it as a personal attack.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of times people aren't able to distinguish themselves between their own government or their own collective groups that they're involved in. So for me, anytime you attacked America, I felt as if I was being attacked as a person, because it's that's my country.
Yeah.
When really, what is a country? A country isn't even a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a made-up idea. It doesn't exist. It doesn't have life.
Yeah. When I would tell my family that I'm going to homeschool, especially my parents, and they would get angry, and I think part of that is because I went to public school, and so their one argument is, you went to public school and you turned out okay, so
right,
and it's a affront to their style of parenting.
Exactly.
Right? That's how they
exactly.
but you shouldn't take it like that. It's like, when you parent, especially, you parent with the knowledge that you have at hand, right? And your, I guess, mental capacity. So as you grow and learn new things, you're going to change, right? We all change, right? So you really want your kids to be like carbon copies of you? Like, what kind of a world would that be?
Yeah, that's a great point. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that aren't, that, I don't know, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I did it this way, you should do it this way too. It's not the idea of making our offspring or our children better than we were, but making them like us or similar to us.
Yeah, exactly. And how does the society progress if the next generation is always stagnating in the in the closed-minded culture of the previous generation, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely some of the difficulties I encounter with this. But all right, so I guess we'll wrap this up. We both have kids, so we got some necessity jobs to do.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the opportunity, Cody. So let people know, if you have any closing remarks, and let people know where they can find your work.
Yeah, you guys, you can check out peacekeeper.org. You can just search in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for Peacekeeper. You'll see it pop up. It's got the blue and red shield, and you can watch one of our videos there. I just encourage people to check out the app, consider becoming a force for good in your neighborhood, consider taking on some level of responsibility for the people you know and love and trust, and it can make the world a lot better place and maybe even save your life one day. So it's worth checking out.
Beautiful. And just just encourages establishing ties and bonds to the people who live near you, right? Rather than people who live in some obscure country, geographical region that you never been to and that you never met. You never met the people there. So get to know your neighbor. That's the message, right? Would you say?
Absolutely.
Get to know the people around you. Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much, Cody. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network. Wishing everyone have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much.